All right, hello guys, here we are, hole number 5. Wanted to take a look at this one. Now, one of the things that you'll see is we got some wind in the face here. I'm thinking maybe it may even be just a little bit better if you have the option for something like a dead ball or royal ball. Speaking of which, let me see if I have royal because it's a little bit faster needle. This is a perfect shot to kind of get rid of some royal balls, because we shouldn't really need any overpower. So I'm thinking more of a precision shot here, a little bit of curl. Thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 8-ish rings. Somewhere in here. So 8-ish rings plus some curl. And just trying to slice it up here. And one of the biggest reasons to bring this royal ball was more for the second shot. I could tell that, in terms of my range, I couldn't really tell if I was going to be able to kind of keep it in range as much as I wanted. So that's why you can see that I'm doing what I'm doing, because I really don't know how far this is going to fall. I can see that it's still got some distance. And one of the things I'd like to kind of get to, if I can, maybe, minish distance on the long iron, depending on, how far I actually am to the hole. That's kind of what I had in mind for this one, because it will make playing side winds just a little bit easier. Another thing, if you can bring something that might have like a wind 4 option, you can see my opponent here, wind 5 option, even better. I don't have those balls, but highly recommend those for par 4s like this. Those power 3 wind 5 balls are ideal for these holes. So let's just see where we are. And you can see we are kind of getting, it is kind of right where I was hoping to be. We're just kind of at the min distance here. And it looks like this is going to be a little bit sus. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend going for that. So it looks, oh man, this is going to be nasty. So if you can't go for that bump shot, man, this is going to be almost non-holeable. A very, very tough shot here. So we're going to need to use some kind of overplay technique. So I'm thinking almost 1 per ring here. It was like 9.5 rings. And then I great balled it to the right. So I would imagine that it's definitely going to be over to the right. But it might have even needed 10 rings there. Even, it might have still needed 10, 10.4. So almost kind of 1 per. And you could see where my distance was. So one of the things that you can do is you can kind of eyeball where my min club line was. And then do something time and time again. Now, I'd say if you want to go for this bump here, one of the things that I saw is my guide was a little bit sketchy. And typically what you'll see is the more that you go towards a max club, it might try to straighten that up. So if you just kind of intentionally lay back and wanted to kind of go for this bump, could be maybe possible. It's hard to say for sure. I don't know for sure that my opponent's shot here is going to actually roll out the full distance or not. But I would say if you wanted to go for this, I would almost recommend just laying it back, because it will actually roll out a little bit smoother. But you can see this even still coming up a little bit short. And as I mentioned, the more you kind of step back, usually the higher those bounces are. And then sometimes they just try to roll out just a little bit extra. So just a thought in the event that, because of it, the closer that you get, kind of the more kind of sketchy they kind of become when you see that one low ball trail that just kind of runs along the ground and goes way through the hole. Maybe better just for consistency to just kind of go for that bounce shot that I did and just try to get one of those last bounces, bounce 3 or 4, to land on the hole. And of course, not great ball it to the right or whatever. But using some kind of overcorrect technique, you can see it was going to be, you could see how close I was to the min line. So you'll want to use that as a reference point. You'll just want to see, okay, this is where the top of the hornet is or whatever. And you'll say, next time that you play that hole, is it farther up towards the green or is it closer? Because if your club doesn't make it that far, that means you're farther away from the hole. If it's closer to the hole, more up, if you're even more on that min line, it means you're closer to the hole, so that you're not going to have as much wind effect. So you'll want to use that to your advantage for when you do your rings, because you don't want to always just do the exact number of rings. That's never, if my shot called for 1-to-1, if you're 5 yards closer, it's not going to be 1-to-1. It's going to be more like, maybe like 0.4 rings less or 0.2 rings less. It's going to be a little bit different. So keep that in mind. Good luck, and I'll see you guys on 6.